Good afternoon or evening, depending on what side of the pond you're on. Welcome to an extra special episode of Across the Pitch. My name is Phil Kennedy, and today I'm joined by Tony Robinson, where we have Accrington Stanley Media Director Dave Burgess joining us. And he has quite a few interesting stories that we're going to talk about today, besides just what's happening in Accrington. He had a football career of his own. He also is involved in some TT racing, which is something that we might not be real familiar with on this side of the pond. So I'm really interested to hear that. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Yeah, good evening, Phil. Good evening from England, and good evening, Tom. How are you?
It's nice to speak to you again, David. We hope all is well with you and your family.
Yeah, everything's fine here. We're currently on lockdown like the rest of the country, but as long as everybody behaves themselves and stays in at home, it gives everybody a fair chance of coming through this.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is that everybody can just kind of stay inside and keep healthy, and it's safe, and then we'll be back to football sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. The main thing at the moment, Phil, is making sure that everybody's safe and everybody's well. Football sits a little bit in the background at the moment, but the main thing is that when we come out of the other side of this, there's football about, and the supporters can come back out and start supporting football and Accrington Stanley again. And just as a side thing to this, is the first time I've sat down with my wife for 20 years and spoke at length. I found out lots about her this last 3 or 4 weeks.
Any surprises, David?
No real surprises, but I found out that she doesn't work at Woolworths anymore in Clitheroe. That's gone. So, I found out 1 or 2 new things about her as well. So, but the good thing is we're still talking.
I found out my wife retired 8 years ago.
Now, Tony, you've met David when you've gone over to visit the Stanley games when you make your yearly trip to England. That's correct, right?
Yeah, one of the first smiling faces I see when I walk in on a Saturday afternoon. So David's been always welcoming to me, and it's always a pleasure to visit with him, and I'm looking forward to a chat. I've in doing some research for today. I read his bio, and I'll tell you one thing: I got exhausted after I read that. The amount of stuff that you've done, David, and you're still doing it, it boggles the mind. I think we don't realize that when we see somebody on a Saturday afternoon, what is in their background.
Well, it's like a long background as well. I'm 58 now, but when you sit down and look back at some of the things you've done, you think I haven't done too bad there with 1 or 2 bits of achievements. I've never been a world champion. I've never been a professional footballer, but I've been there or thereabouts in 1 or 2 things I've done in the past, and and it's great at this time that people still have an interest in it and want to talk about it, and I'm looking forward to having a chat with both yourself, Tony, and Phil about what's gone on in the past.
I just want to jump in and ask, explain the significance of the number 13 to us.
Now then, the significance of number 13.
Well, I remember when you first arrived at Stanley, you mentioned that you were at the Lancashire FA for 13 years.
Now then, Tony, I thought you were going back to my playing days when they used to have 2 substitutes, and I was always number 13. but actually, it's not that. No. When I left school and ended up having to go into a real job after football, I worked 13 years in my first job as a printer, and I mean 13 years to the week. And then I took another job at what was the barbecue factory called Recteller International. And again, within the week, I spent 13 years there. And then on my third job as chief executive at Lancashire Football Association, and this is to the day, I spent 13 years there as well. So I've had 3 previous jobs before Accrington Stanley, and every one of them, within a week, lasted 13 years. So I've been at Stanley for 4.5 years now, so another 8.5 years or so, and I'll be ready. I'll be ready for moving on.
Hopefully that coincides when you get your pension.
Hey, with what's going on at the moment, I don't think there'll be many pensions left for people like me.
But I remember you telling that story about 13 years at each job, and I thought that was quite something, and that's why I threw that number at you.
Yeah, well, I thought you were taking the mickey out of me once again, so it reminded me what my shirt number was.
Well, we talked about the numbers the other day with one of the players, and about back in the day when I
was Sam Finley that we had talked about that with.
Yeah, and back in those days, back in the 60s when I was playing, my number and I didn't like it at all, was number 12, which meant you never got on the pitch until the manager either had somebody injured or he felt sorry for you in the last few minutes. So number 12 was not one of the numbers you wanted when you were given out, let alone 13.
No, not at all. And I always remember in the days when I played, and there were numbers 1 to 11, and then the substitutes were 12 and 13 or 12 and 14, in the days when there were only 2 substitutes. And you knew when you went in on match day, because everybody used to sit in the same place every week. And the manager of the kit man had come in and put the shirts out before. So you knew when you went to sit down at this place that you sat every week, whatever number was hung up there, you knew exactly where you were playing. And I had number 12 and 14. I had 12, 13 and 14 more than most at one time.
Well, when you were at Blackburn Rovers, and I know that actually you were at Leeds United Boys and then went to Rovers, what position did you play when you were in your youth days?
I was a left back. I'm predominantly left-footed. I'm not the tallest. I'm about 5'5". I'm not the thinnest either, and I never was. I always struggled with my weight through being a youth and in later on in years as well. So I was predominantly a left back, played a little bit on the left-hand side of midfield, but mainly a left back. And that's where I started, and that's where I ended up. They couldn't move me any further back. I wasn't big enough to be goalkeeper, so it was either left back or on the bench.
Or as my dad used to say, left back in the changing rooms.
That's why I left that one for you. That one, Tony. I left that
for you. Thank you. Now you also signed a pro contract, correct?
I did, yeah. I went to Blackburn Rovers. I left school in 1978. After that, I played at Leeds United Boys for 2 or 3 years and travelled up to Leeds all the time. But my boyhood club was always Blackburn Rovers, and I left school in 1978, and I'd been there about 12 months in the youth ranks at the time, and it was a lot different then. It's not no academies like it is now. You played in the youth team, you played in the A team, or you played in the reserves, and then if you were good enough, you played in the first team. And I signed a pro contract with Blackburn Rovers in 1978, which would have been 1 year at the time. And 3 weeks after I'd signed it, the manager, Jim Smith, left and went to Birmingham City, and a new manager called Jim Eiley came in. He didn't have the same amount of money as Jim Smith had at the time, and he had to get rid of some players. So he got rid of some of the senior pros, and he got rid of 10 of the first-year pros, the first-year apprentices, and I was one of them. So I actually played 2 games as a professional footballer in the A team, and then had to come home one Friday morning and say to my mum and dad, look, I've just lost my job as a professional footballer, and I'm number 6 out of 7 children. So when I came home and said to my mum and dad, look, I've lost my job, the first thing my dad said was, well, we can't keep you. You need to go and find yourself another job on Monday. And that was it. So Monday morning, I went to the job centre and found myself a job as an apprentice printer, and spent, as we spoke about earlier, 13 years as an apprentice, and then a fully qualified printer.
And then that was the first place that you spent 13 years at, from 1978 to 1991, is what it had said here on your bio. So tell us a little bit about the printing business. I imagine in those days you probably saw things go from a manual type to computers during that era.
That's right, Phil. Yeah, I actually was probably one of the last generation of what they were called letterpress apprentices. I spent my full apprenticeship on letterpress print machines, and that was when you literally had to pick each letter out of a box and put them together and get the type together and get the story together or the menu or whatever you were printing and do it that way. And then as I finished my apprenticeship and got into a full-time job there, it changed to what they call lithographic printing, which was it was an image on like an aluminium type of reel, and the old letterpress days started fading out. So I did a little bit of both, and it was only in a small print shop, by the way. You know, it wasn't anything like the Daily Express or any of the big newspapers. It was only a small town little print shop, but I really enjoyed it there, and you know, and I had a great time there, and it gave me the opportunity through that to do other things, and that brings you onto the motorcycles and things like that. So it wasn't a job where I was under a lot of pressure, but it was a job that I trained hard to do for 5 years, and it gave me a lot of opportunities. But yeah, I went across from the old letterpress printing to the new digital age.
When did that lead you at that time, David, into Clitheroe, the football club there?
Yeah, well, when it didn't work out as a professional footballer and I had to go and get a real job, I started playing a little bit of local football. So I played for a village team called Waddington, which was just a local village close to us.
Oh, okay, that's where Scott Brown's at now.
No, I think you're referring to Waddington, aren't you, David?
Yeah, Waddington, not Warrington. No, Waddington.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Just close by us, and the reason I ended up doing that was at the time that I didn't make it as a footballer. That was the time that I got involved in motorcycle racing. So again, playing local football and working at a local company gave me the opportunity to go and do other things. So I played football there for years, and then in round about 1990, and times go on, around about 1990, I went to Clitheroe as the reserve team manager, and Clitheroe was as player manager actually for the reserves, and Clitheroe was my hometown team. And I'd like to think, like most people, if you had the opportunity of playing for your hometown team, you were going to do that, and that's what took me to Clitheroe really in round about that time.
And then in 1994 is when you became the reserve player manager. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, I went there as a player, and it's like anything in life, Phil. The older you get, the better you was.
Yeah.
I could certainly talk a good game by the mid-90s. So I ended up. Nobody wanted to really do it. So myself and my mate John Osty took over as reserve team manager. So we played a bit and we managed the team, and it was great to be reserve team manager. My town team was fantastic, and it gave me an insight into the other side of football, into the management side and the coaching side. Yeah, they were good times, and I still live in Clitheroe now. I still follow the results now, and who knows, one day when I do retire, I may go back there and clean the ground for them, and do the type of things voluntary things that we get done at Accrington Stanley at the moment. The voluntary sector's essential to football, and I've still got fond memories of Clitheroe.
I think that's something that gets overlooked, is just how big a part volunteers are to the grassroots of football, and even at a place like Accrington Stanley in League One, that volunteers are just very integral part of the club.
No, you're right, Phil. No volunteers, and I'll tell you what, to run a club like Accrington Stanley, the way we do, without the volunteers, we'd be really, really stuck. And they're not just volunteers; they're the fans as well, and they take care and they take a pride in the club, and they do it because they want to do it. And that type of person in any industry, if you really love what you do, like with you on the podcast and everything, you can tell that you really enjoy doing what you're doing, and that comes across in football as well. And the volunteers that we've got at Accrington Stanley are invaluable to us, and the fans as well. And it's great, to be able to work alongside them.
It's a fantastic club, man, from top to bottom, and the family atmosphere of the club, and like you said, just from the chairman all the way down to the volunteers, that everybody is treated with the same respect. And like you said, I mean, that's why we're doing the podcast, because this is what we're passionate about spreading the word about.
And you can hear that in your voice, Phil, and Tony as well. I've met Tony on a few occasions, and fantastic when they come over and people talk to you, and you can see the passion in the face, and you can hear the passion in the voice, and you just want to be able to do what you can do to ensure that when they come along to the game on a Saturday, that it's the best it can be. Accrington Stanley is in League One. It's one of the smallest clubs in the Football League still. But, we have this family community atmosphere that when people come along, they really enjoy the day. And that's the away fans as well. We were voted the best away club last season by many, many teams. And it's great when they come back, because the next time they come back, they know what to expect. And you get a real camaraderie going with them. But listen, our home fans are unbelievable. They are absolutely unbelievable. And when I've logged on,
I hear them on I Follow every week. I mean, just the amount of noise that the supporters make. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah, and they were there a long time before us, and they'll be there a long time after us. And it's important that while when I say we with Andy, there's no Andy Holt and then everybody else. We're all in it together. And while we are custodians of the club for a small time, we want to make it better. We want to give them a better experience when they come to the games. But in the end, it's their club. And when we've long gone, Accrington Stanley hopefully will still be there. And the kids who are running around the terraces now, terrorizing the old people, they'll be our fans of the future. And that's the type of atmosphere that we're trying to keep going.
Well, one of the things I'll add to that, David, is my experience of coming over, and as I say, I try to do that every year, and I, when you walk in, the first match back, when I get there, is everybody knows you by your name, your first name, and I mean, I'm only there for a short period of time, and it's like, oh, you're back again. It hasn't been that long, and everybody comes over and says hello, and I'm able to speak to Andy and say hi. I mean, you just don't get that, at say a Premier League club, and it makes for an experience to me that I can't really describe in words, other than like going in and sitting and visiting with your family again.
No, you're right, Tony, and what other club, and there will be other clubs out there that work similar to Accrington Stanley. I'm not saying we are the only club that ever does this, but we pride ourselves on the fact that at the end of most games, all the players come in. You can talk to the manager, to the assistant manager. He's in the bar afterwards. Everybody's open. At the end of the game, the players don't just walk off. They go and applaud the fans. They walk down the side. They're signing, win or lose this as well. They sign autographs for the kids. They have their photographs taken. Everybody's, like you say, you can talk to Andy. You can come and talk to any of the staff. And, we're just so pleased that we have a brand of supporter. I think it's quite unique. You say you come over once a year and everybody straight away says, hiya, Tony, and yeah. Tony, and you come and have a meal with us, and everybody remembers everybody, because it's such a close-knit club. It really is. This is a good time to sort of give a shout out to your couple of the members of your staff that really embody what you're talking about and make the match day experience, second to none. And that's Daniel Barbank and Sophie Jones. They're tremendous to deal with and really, really do an outstanding job for you guys. Yeah, absolutely. Right from the managers and the players, everybody takes pride in what they do, Phil and Tony, but everybody. So Daniel and Sophie on the hospitality side and the commercial side, they do it the best that they think it should be done. And again, Phil, you haven't seen the inside of like our hospitality. It's quite basic. It's neat. It's clean. It's tidy. We get around about 100 people in, but we make it quite a special atmosphere when they come in. And Danny and Sophie and the girls behind the bar and the people who are serving drinks and everything. We try and make it a day that you want to come back. And I love it when people like Tony say, I can't wait to come back next year now. You know, Tony comes once a year for a few weeks. We get people now who are coming back game after game and buying a hospitality season ticket because, and mainly on the back of the work that Daniel has done and Sophie has done and everybody else, you know, the people in the ticket office. You know, we've gone from 4 years ago, Phil, where you could walk up to the turnstile and pay money on the gate, to 4 years later, everything's digital now. We've got our own ticketing machines and, you know, we're probably 2 or 3, 4 seasons behind everybody else, but the inroads that we've made over the past 4 years will stand in good stead for years to come.
Well, I'll tell you, when I do make it over there, I might never leave. And I definitely I will make it over there. I unfortunately I have some ear problems that make flying difficult for me, so I'm gonna have to come over on a boat. But I will be over there, and like I said, I might never take the boat back once I do.
I'll tell you what, Phil. The thing that might just drag you across is this £1 a pint if we win.
Oh, there we go. You know, I've been trying to get some of that Aki ale over here in the States, and I've been working on that. So we definitely need to get that over here because I think that would be a big hit with the North American Supporters Club. We've been known to have some dollar pints over here.
I'll tell you what, you'll certainly know about it the day after if you've had a few pints of that Aki ale.
I don't think Bowling Breweries make a bad ale.
No, well, I've sampled most of them, Tony, because they're in my town, and I can confirm that most of them are very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait to try that. Now, one thing I did just want to kind of touch on because you had mentioned it a bit before. Is about the future of the club and how whatever we're doing now is building towards the future. And Darren Woodhead, who of course is the author of 50 Years of Accrington Stanley. One of the things I always tell Darren when we're doing the podcast is I say, you know, if one day whoever writes the 100 Years of Accrington Stanley book can come back and listen to these and get something out of it, then we'll have done our job.
Listen, things like this, Phil, are invaluable. You know, over the last 4 years again, you know, myself and Andy have listened to people like Phil, like Darren Woodhead, and one or two others who's got a massive history of Accrington Stanley, and you know, we need those people to carry on telling the story, and things like this, podcasts like this, in years to come, we'll be able to carry on telling the story of Accrington Stanley, and I think it's really important because going back to one of my old jobs, which we might touch on, I was the chief executive at Lancashire FA, and Lancashire FA was founded in 1878, and in the safe when I worked there, I had the original minute books written in 1878, wow. And you know, by you know the original secretary of Lancashire FA, and
the literal holy grail of football, if you will.
Yeah, but historical things like that.
Like the 10 commandments of football, I guess, would be more accurate.
You know, and so it's important. Things like this are really important because, you know, in years to come, you'll be able to still catch the history of Accrington Stanley through podcasts like this, and the work that Darren does and many other people do for Accrington Stanley, because it's a grand old club. It's got a lot of history with it. And there's still a lot of history to come with it as well.
I did want to mention that this would be a good time to mention that within the next couple of weeks, Darren is actually going to be launching an Accrington Stanley Memories website that will be a website that's just specifically dedicated to history.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You know, and that's there forever. That becomes history itself, Phil, as well.
Yeah.
You know, and that's there. Some of the photographs that Darren and many other people have put on the Accrington Stanley website, on the Memories website, on the Supporters Club website. You know, some of those pictures from the 60s and way before that and since that. You know, when we get the new boys built and the new hospitality areas built, pictures like that are the type of things that we want up on the wall. We want the history of Accrington Stanley around us all the time.
I see on Facebook and the lady that posts Judith Martin, and I think her name is, and she's Garth Dawson's daughter, and she's going through his archives, and she's coming out with pictures that people haven't seen, you know, in years and years, and she's posting them on Facebook, and back, like you said, the ones from the 50s and 60s of when Garth Dawson started taking pictures of Accrington Stanley. I mean, it's tremendous stuff out there.
They're unbelievable, Tony, and you know, and they're iconic. You know, the one, you know, where the kids are kicking the football against the wall at Peel Park, and it's got Stanley versus Exeter and the last game, and things like that. You know, the dog on the pitch and the snow and 16 or 17, 20,000 people at Peel Park. All those old photographs are they're priceless. You know, and every other club has them, but to know that your club has got that history as well, you know, it fills you with pride.
And who would have thought, as I said, when we started the job at Stanley, that you would be now on April the 4th talking to a gentleman in Phoenix, Arizona, about Accrington Stanley.
Hey, when I started the job 4.5 years ago, I did well for people to talk to me from Accrington, never mind Phoenix, Arizona.
When I told my co-hosts that I started the show with here in Phoenix that we were going to start a show and focus on Phoenix Rising, which is our local team here, and Accrington Stanley, he asked me, "How many pints have you had?"
Yeah. Hey, you know, and fancy coming from a place called Phoenix with a club like Accrington Stanley as well.
Well, it's really the thing that we've found here is that there's so many people that don't want to follow the Premier League because they like the local. They come to the Phoenix Rising game and they're turned off by the big money. And then, you know, we start telling about Accrington Stanley, and now we've got I think about 20 members here in Arizona that have joined the Supporters Club, and now we've got people, you know, Texas, Florida, just all over the country that call us and say, you know, hey, we're following Accrington now, and I think that's the biggest thing that if, you know, somebody from Texas calls me and says, you know, hey, I'm watching Accrington now, I feel like, you know, we're doing something.
You like you're like the USA preacher you are, Phil, right? You're spreading the word, and the flock are coming along and listening.
And we're buying it too. We're buying in all the way. So I was lucky to, you know, come across Phil and you know, be able to you know, find somebody in the States that are following Stanley, and then to let them know. I said, well, I'm from Accrington and I follow Stanley, and well, one thing led to another, and here we are, you know, helping out Phil and his group to, you know, to spread the word and you know, make the brand Accrington Stanley brand more known, better known than it is now. It's a brand, and we're trying to sort of work on that over here.
And the good thing about that, Tony, as well, is you throw the old Accrington twang in every now and again. So you're very authentic in your knowledge and the way you come across. So it's all right having all this Canadian accent, but every now and again you just throw the old Accrington saying in, and I like that.
I'll tell you, throw a few Aki ales at me, and it'll come back a lot more.
We should also probably talk about the guys over in Ghana. We've got our friend Abdoulaye Subaru, who runs the Ghana Football News site, and now he's started an Accrington Supporters Club down in Ghana. Those guys are just super passionate down there. We also have Matt McLennan down in Australia, who is starting to get the Australian supporters. So it's not just North America. We're going to try to spread Accrington all around the world.
Listen, it's fantastic, you know, and there's the expats like Tony who move away and still follow it. But it's great when you know the Ghanaians and, like I say, the Australians, the South Americans, the people, you know, the people from Spain. There's a bar in Spain called Michael Stanley, who are all Accrington, and it's fantastic that they come across, you know, from time to time. You know, you follow them I follow them religiously on Facebook and Twitter, and it's great to see, you know, people from all over the place. You know, in fact, last Friday night we should have played Coventry last Saturday, and on Friday night, and there's a group of 12 Norwegian lads who come over once a year, spend the weekend. I go out for a pint with them on the Friday night before the game. And I go out for a beer with them on the Saturday after the game, and they couldn't come because the game had obviously been postponed. So they set up a web link FaceTime last Friday night, and I met them all online, and I had a beer with them online for an hour and had a chat with them about Accrington Stanley. And it was great. There was about 8 or 9 of them, and me sat in the kitchen where I'm sat now,
Incredible.
You know, just to catch up a little bit, and I could see all the faces, all the lads that I knew, and I had a toast with them. So it's great, you know, people from all over the world following the club. It's brilliant.
And you had a young lad fella come from, was it South Korea that he came over from to visit?
It did, yeah. We call him Dave because it's easier to say than a South Korean name.
I know exactly who you're talking about. He posts on Twitter all the time. I'll get his Twitter handle here. That might be
right. We call him Dave U.
At Within Aki is his Twitter handle. At Within Aki.
That's right. He turned up at a game about a month ago. You know, it was in Europe somewhere, and ended up coming to the game. You know, from South Korea. Unbelievable. And every season he buys a season ticket. It's great. You know, it's fantastic, and we're so proud of you know, our supporters all around the world who follow the club and support the club, and without them, you know, we're nothing without them.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about ways for people to support around the world, because really the very biggest way that people can support around the world is by subscribing to iFollow, because I understand the team gets about 70% of that money when someone buys an iFollow subscription.
Yeah, we don't get me going on that iFollow, Phil. I must admit, I'm not the keenest supporter of it. And the reason I'm not the keenest supporter of it is every away fan who goes on to iFollow, the away club get the money. So even though we are putting the game on and everything like that, if you're and I'm going to say probably one of the furthest teams away, if you're a Portsmouth fan and you can't travel up to Accrington for the game and you watch it on iFollow, Portsmouth get the money in Accrington. But that aside, it's really good for people like yourself. It's really good for people abroad, international fans. You know, they can watch Accrington at different times of the day, different times of the morning and evening, you know, wherever you are in the world. And it's a great opportunity of following, you know, seeing it live on television after getting involved, you know, through Facebook and Twitter and other social platforms. It's nice to be able to sit down, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, just be able to sit down and actually just watch a game now and again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I have the monthly subscription for $19 a month, and I'm up at 7 a.m. every Saturday and watch every game live. I mean, it's you know, like you said, if you're in England and you can get to the game, get to the stadium. I'm a season ticket holder with my Phoenix Rising here, so I go to every game, and I've got actually 3 season tickets. But if you're an international fan, then this is your way of connecting with the team and being able to, you know, this is, you know, my kind of season pass is the $19 a month for iFollow, and then by every Saturday morning, I've just been lost these past few weeks. I wake up on Saturday morning, and you know, right about now, I'd just be, about an hour or two, then the game would have gotten over, and I'm just lost without my Accrington Stanley on Saturday morning.
No, I know how you feel, Phil, but the downside to that, if I lived over in Phoenix, Arizona with you, I'd be, with some of the results that we've had recently, I'd be drunk by 11 o'clock in the morning.
As you always see me when we have our North American Supporters Club parties, I'm always the guy with the coffee in the picture, but some of the other guys...
At my end, it's 10 o'clock, and I don't think that's as bad, but it's still a bit too early for me to have a pint.
Listen, when you've seen some of our games, Tony, and you've seen some of the games on iFollow, Phil, you need a drink after some of our games at the moment.
The last few were pretty rough. I mean, I think the Rotherham game was one that really got to me because it was just so late in the game, it looked like we were going to get some points out of it, and then that late goal came in. That was one that definitely made me think about having a 9 a.m. pint.
Yeah, listen, sometimes it is hard work, but in reality, and joking aside, when you sit down in the harsh of reality, and you look at the budget that Accrington Stanley are on compared to every other team, probably by the odd one, but every other team in League One, to be where we are currently, it's like winning the World Cup. Accrington Stanley are set in League One. We're sat all right towards the lower end of the table, but based on the income, the crowds, the budget that John Coleman and Jimmy work with, and John Doolan, it's like winning the World Cup. Sat where we're sat, it's unbelievable, really. People talk of the big managers with big teams and big money, but what John, Jimmy, and John Doolan and the rest of the staff do on the football side with what we've got is nigh on, it's World Cup winning stuff.
Unrivaled.
One of the things that I remember Andy Alt saying, one of his quotes is, why would he ever get rid of John, Jimmy, and John? He said they know more about football than I'll ever forget. Why would he ever get rid of those guys? I mean, the job that they do and day in, day out, just the product they put on the pitch is just tremendous. So the consistency of having the same management team, I don't think could be understated.
Well, the question is, who got us up from League Two? And it was John and Jimmy and John. If we were going to go back down to League Two, and it is, I'm not saying it's a probability, but it's a possibility, and like it is for any other club. But if we were going to go back down to League Two, who would you want to get you back out of League Two? And it's John, Jimmy, and John. So why would you swap and change and do things? We've got a club there that's very stable. All right, forget the last few weeks with what's going on with the virus here, and no football, but it's very stable. It runs on a budget. John knows what his budget is. He brings players in that you've never heard of, and they turn out to be world beaters. We've got young Ross Sykes who's come through the youth team. We've got one or two other lads who are coming through. You just wouldn't want anybody else running your football team for you. John, Jimmy, and John, they do a fantastic job. They really do.
I think one of the things that we find in our interviews, David, with the players, is the commonality of the compliments about the coaching staff and the gaffer, and each player. One of the things that comes through to us is the character that each player has. And that's obviously important to John Coleman when he does his recruitment. Listen, and I meet and talk to the players every single day that they're in. I've never met a better bunch of guys than we've currently got. And I'd have said the same the last season, the season before, but they come in and we bring some of these kids in on loan from Premier League clubs, young Adji Lacey and Jerome and Joe Bursick from Stoke City, who you spoke to last week. Yeah, really settled in really well, down to earth kids, want to play football.
We've actually had all three of them on there. They've all been for having, like you said, been from Premier League clubs. They seem to just have the Accrington mind frame.
Well, absolutely. They're in the Premier League clubs and they go into in the morning and they've got chefs, doing the food for them and canteens and everything. They come into Accrington Stanley. They come into the lounge. They make their own toast so they don't get anything. They make their own brew or they don't get anything. They sit down for 15, 20 minutes. They have to take the plates away and put them away and get them ready for washing up and everything like that. It's a real grounding for some of these kids. Some of the older pros, Yozza Hughes and Seamus and Sean McConville, some of the older pros are used to that. They're used to Accrington Stanley having nothing. Mm-hmm. But some of these kids come in and they've and I don't know if I can say this, but they've had their arse wiped all their life. And then all of a sudden they've got to come and make their own toast in the morning or their own crumpets or their own bagels, and they've got to make their own tea and coffee, and then they've got to put it away afterwards. It really gives them a good steady grounding, and they thank you for it. When they leave, they thank you for what you've done for them, because it gives them, it's called real life, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's something we've heard from so many players. They said, I've learned how to cook and clean for myself and things like that. And I think that's just something where, you feel good inside by not, like you said, having your arse wiped.
Yeah. Well, listen, you might have to edit this out, because my wife will think that I can clean up and everything like that. So I've got to be careful what I say.
Yeah, just since you started in January of 2016 to the present day, what would you say is the biggest change, or let's say the most pleasing thing that you've seen as far as the infrastructure of the club is concerned?
Wow. I'll probably say the increase in supporters. So seeing the kids coming in now, as you know, and I'm going to say this tongue in cheek, Tony, but you are one of them. We have quite an older generation of supporters who are season ticket holders at Accrington Stanley. But to see the introduction of the kids coming in, and I know you've probably heard it from Andy and from other people, but every season now we give every 8-year-old kid in Accrington an Accrington Stanley shirt. Now, when we came in 4 years ago, all the kids in the schools had Blackburn shirts on, or Burnley shirts on, or United shirts on. We've noticed year on year now, more and more kids are wearing Accrington Stanley shirts. So if you can ask me, like, the biggest thing, I would say, the introduction of that and getting more and more kids in, getting the crowds higher. We've got averaging around about 2,000 now, where, one of my first games at Accrington Stanley on a Tuesday night was against Hartlepool, and there was 900 on. So things like that are really important, because if we can build a fan base for the future, we know it's in good hands. The development of the ground itself is another thing. The development of the team, to be League Two champions and hold our own in League One, and we do all this in the background with a staff of around about 8 to 9. Administration staff.
It's terrific. I mean, one thing when you mentioned about the children, that's one thing I noticed each year, as I see more and more children at the matches. With a parent, a mother, dad, or grandparent that comes along, and they're buying into the club, really, and like you say, too many people pick Stanley, or would maybe Stanley was a second team, or they would go elsewhere. Now you're making Stanley the first choice.
Yeah, listen, if you're going to say one highlight for me, Tony, based on that, Phil, is that when we won the league, the night we won the league, there was like a 22-a-side game on the pitch afterwards. And by the way, this is a midweek game. 22-a-side people on the pitch, all kids. Some of the players still on there. Kids taking penalties against Aaron Chapman, who was a goalkeeper at the time, at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. So many kids in and around the club, and just to see that image that night of all these kids wanting to be Billy Key, wanting to be Sean McConville, wanting to be Seamus Keneally, Mark Hughes, and people like that. That's the most satisfying thing about it. It's great that the kids now are. Listen, we all wanted to be David Beckham. You all wanted to be Billy Wright in the day, or Bobby Moore, anything like that.
Yeah.
We want kids to be Sean McConville. We want kids to be Sam Finlay. We want kids, and they are being that now. We're seeing the kids around now with the players' names on the back, and it's fantastic, because they're our future.
One of the things that I noticed not that long ago is Andy Holt released some plans on Twitter of the sort of the new stand and the lounge and changing rooms. I know with what's going on, this could change your plans, but is there anything you can tell us on the future of those plans?
Well, funny enough, the day before, so it would be the 12th of March, the day before the Football League was called off, we were sat with the architects, just finalising them. And I'll be honest with you, Tony and Phil, that's the last time we spoke to them. With what's gone on since then, we haven't really spoken about it because there's bigger worries in life at the moment. But it will be great when it does happen, and it will happen. When it does happen, there'll be new bars, there'll be a supporters bar, there'll be a hospitality bar, there'll be new changing rooms, and it'll just finish off the ground. But as it stands at the moment, in answer to your question, you don't have no further news on it, and it'll be something that we pick up when football starts again.
Yeah, it's just like everything else. Unfortunately, at the moment, is just on hold.
It is, we've got the staff on furlough at the moment, and the players, and all the coaching staff, and we're just, I'm in and out at the moment, picking stuff up from the EFL on a daily basis on what's going to happen next, and nobody knows. You see today, another 700 odd people have unfortunately lost their life today in Britain. So it's a terrible state of affairs, and you can't even think in your own mind to start planning about football yet because there's bigger things to think of. But eventually, every day that we go along now, we get a day nearer the end of it. And eventually football will come back, and we'll be prepared for it at Accrington Stanley, and hopefully when it does come back, we'll be able to provide the same, if not better, service than we've provided up to now.
Yeah, well said,
Tony. I think this is the time in the show where we kind of turn to some less intense topics or more intense topics, depending on what your opinions are on some of these things. Would you say it's a good time for that?
Yeah, we have. Go ahead.
I'm ready to go light-hearted now, guys. When you're ready.
Right. This is our rapid fire section, and I'm going to have Phil cue up our sound effects. Okay, these are easy ones for you, David. Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
Beatles.
Mushy or garden?
The only reason I say that, I quite like the Rolling Stones actually, but I'm number 6 out of 7 children, and all my sisters and brothers, apart from one, are older than me. So I was brought up with 60s music, and I was brought up more with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, I think that's me too. That's my experience with the Beatles.
Everybody has said the Beatles, and it's actually not a question that has a wrong answer, but everybody says the Beatles. So yeah, it's the
Beatles. Well, probably because we're up north, Phil. You know what I mean?
Well, even the London guys have said the Beatles.
Yeah,
because they're playing up north.
Yeah. All right, on to the number 2, easy one. Mushy or garden peas?
Oh, mushy peas every day of the week.
On your red or brown sauce on your bacon butty?
Red sauce, brown sauce, it gets thrown in the bin.
Right. This is from Mark Hughes. Red or white wine?
Red wine. It blows my mind.
Full English, with or without black pudding?
With, obviously.
Yes. I put you down for a yes on that one. Okay, for on the soap operas, Coronation Street or EastEnders?
I'm going to say Coronation Street, but I don't watch it.
Right. Okay, this is one I think you already answered. In happy hour after a win, Aki Ale or Foster's?
Aki ale every day of the week, and many of them.
And would you watch Sunderland Till I Die? Yes or no?
I watched the second series the other night in one go, all 6 episodes.
Oh, is it any good?
It's no Accrington Stanley, that's all I'll say.
There you go.
Yeah, I heard there was going to be, and then Peter told me there isn't. So, yeah, I watched the first episode, but I don't know if I'm going to watch the rest now.
Well, it's no. All I can say, guys, it's no Accrington Stanley.
Yeah.
Okay, Phil, up to you.
All right, so we started with Beatles and Rolling Stones, and then I realized some of the younger guys might not listen to them, so we also have Oasis or Blur.
Oasis, because I went to see them in '96.
Nice. That would have been right around the time that Definitely Maybe came out, I think.
It was, and the reason I say that, Phil, just a quick side note, is in '96, Clitheroe played at Wembley in the FA Vars final against a team called Bricktown. They got beat 3-0 on the day, but it was that summer of '96 when Oasis were up there, and before every game, we had the Oasis songs on and things like that. So that sticks with me, that one.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think anybody has said Blur except for our Australian co-host Aaron Ayres that also spent some time in London. He got brainwashed by the Blur crowd.
He doesn't count though. Go ahead.
No about Northern music.
We have one that is Canadian-based for Tony. In Canada, they have a signature dish called poutine, which is chips, gravy, and cheese curds. He thinks it would be a hit in Lancashire. Is that something you're going to serve at the concession stand next year?
Not a chance. As the Cockneys would say, not a jack for lamb. It's a pie. It's an hot dog. It's a bar of chocolate. It's a cup of tea or a pint of ackee ale. Take your pick.
Oh, there isn't a bad choice in that list at all, David.
I've got to have one of those pies. I've heard some good things about those.
Yeah, I'll bring one back.
Hey, that sounds like a plan. I'll send you a T-shirt. You send me a pie. We'll call it a deal. Here in Phoenix, Arizona, we enjoy hot and spicy foods, and we put jalapeno peppers on our pepperoni pizza. Is that something you would like to try?
No, I love it. I love jalapenos. Not a problem.
All right.
Beers on a Saturday night. I've had a few beers on a Saturday night on my way home. I'll nip in for a diet kebab.
Nothing better than this jalapenos and cold beer, I'll tell you there. Yeah. And then
a diet kebab, Phil, and then with jalapenos on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can't beat that.
I'm slavering now.
And then we had a couple of questions that we brought in just for you because we noticed in your bio that you spent 13 years in the barbecue industry. So propane or charcoal?
Charcoal.
Oh, so Hank Hill is not going to like your answer. Tony said
charcoal factory.
Tony said that he didn't think you would know who Hank Hill was, and I said, if you've been in the barbecue industry, I bet you know who Hank Hill is.
I'm not answering that one.
The propane guy.
Next question.
And then Joseph Bursick said he would not have jalapenos on his pizza. He would prefer pineapple. Would you like pineapple on your pizza?
Yeah, I love it. Listen, Phil, you don't get this shape. We are having whatever you can get on your pizza.
Oh yeah. I'm not touching that one, David. I'm not touching that one.
Together, you get the hot and sweet together. I think it's not a bad combination to throw that on there. Was that all the questions, Tony, or did I miss one?
Yeah, we're going to change that segment from rapid fire to almost rapid fire because it takes about 20 minutes to do now. But no, I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. Unless you had anything extra, Phil.
I think that we got all of them, and yeah, that section has grown as more people have thrown in more questions. Did you have one that you wanted us to add at all? That you'd want us to ask the players at the future shows?
No, listen. Anybody who comes on this show should be proud to come on it because it's a great show. Ask them whatever you want because these guys will answer anything. Not a problem.
Well, we've been really pleased with the honesty of the players, the honesty that they give us when we interview them, and it's just tremendous. And I've really enjoyed this session today. It's just like a visit with an old mate. So thanks for your time, and I'm looking forward to having an Akio with you, God willing, in September.
One big thing that we didn't talk about that I wanted to make sure we did, which is your TT racing. We definitely need to make sure we talk about that. I was kind of saving the best for last because you are involved in what looks like the most dangerous sport that I've ever seen. I was watching it on YouTube. Tell us about the TT racing and how you got into that.
Yeah, I started racing motorbikes and sidecars, and I'm not sure what you call them in the USA, but we call them sidecars over here. And I started racing them with my dad in 1978 again, just after finishing playing football. And time went on, and we raced all over England at Silverstone and Alton Park and Brands Hatch, and then when my dad retired, I went to race with a guy called John Holden, who currently finishes has won the TT a few times at the Isle of Man, and is still one of the favourites to win there every when it goes over. And in 1988, I did my first Isle of Man TT with John, and managed to finish fourth in the Formula 2 sidecar race, and it was a start of a passion that carried on and into my mid-30s, really. So what I can tell you, it does hurt when you crash, Phil.
Yes.
I've had a helicopter ride to the hospital, so I know that side of it. And I know it's dangerous, but so are many other sports. But it was something I was brought up with, and away from the football side of things, it's something that's probably one of the proudest things I've done. Ended up finishing fourth at the Isle of Man TT. Yeah,
you've had a good career in your personal life and your business life, and you've had success all the way along the way, and long may it continue, David.
And the thing about that, both of you, Phil and Tony, is, and I've said it before, the older you get, the better I was.
Yes, well said. I'm a legend. I'm a legend now, David.
Well,
I'm not even a legend. I'm not even a legend in my own kitchen, guys.
I just can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on the show, David, and hearing all of your stories and just everything that you do at Accrington, and the kind words that you've said about our show today. It's just really, I can't thank you enough, and we hope we'll have you get on soon, because I know that we didn't even get to probably half the stories that you could have told, because you've just had such an interesting life here with you, your football career, the motor racing. We barely even got into your time with the Lancashire FA, so we definitely need to do this again in the future.
Listen, anytime, and remember, every time you guys do one of these, you're adding to the history of Accrington Stanley. So thank you very much as well.
Oh, thank you, David.
It means the world to us to hear that, and we always end it with an on Stanley on.
We'll see you September. See you September, David.